Hello, coming to you from one of the magical cities of board gaming, Omaha, Nebraska. Welcome to the Out of the Dust podcast. I'm your host, Mystic Bryce Jurdy. An Out of the Dust board game is a game that gets played that you hadn't previously played in a year or more. In other words, it's been a while since you last played it. But why did the game get dusty? Why did you decide to dust it off? How does the game compare to how you remembered it? Are you likely to play it more often in the future? These are the questions that we're interested in examining on Out of the Dust. In case you're tuning in for the first time, I'm the moderator of the Out of the Dust Geek List on Board Game Geek. The Out of the Dust Geek List is one of the recurring monthly geek lists on the site, joining such other popular ones like Favorite New to Me of the Month, New to Me a Year Ago, and Games Only I Played. The main focus of this podcast is highlighting some of the Out of the Dust games that I and other contributors to the Geek List have been playing. There are a few other short segments on this podcast as well, sometimes unrelated and sometimes tied in with an out-of-the-dust perspective.
Oh gosh, I'm
Let's turn first to the out-of-the-dust segment. It's the middle of summer, and I've been playing a lot of games with my two young sons. We brought It Happens out of the dust a few days ago. It's been 2 years, 4 months, and 17 days since we last played it. I like this game better than most people. A lot of people consider this Steffenfeld's worst game, an honor I reserve for Builder's Duel instead. It Happens has an interesting history. It was included as a free throw-in with the Amerigo Kickstarter several years ago. I'm convinced that the hardcore Euro gamers that got this game with Amerigo didn't know what kind of game it was or how to react to it. They approached it the same way they did Amerigo, and were left disappointed because it's not the gamer's game they got with Amerigo. It Happens is a family game. I blame Queen for this weird combo pack of games they sent everyone. They really did It Happens a disservice because of it. Because It Happens is a solid family game. It's got a cute anteater theme and features some genuinely interesting decisions to make in regards to which dice to place, where, and when. My 4-year-old needed some help in recognizing which decisions he could make, but Luke, my 8-year-old, made some consistently strategic decisions during the game. I still won, but I was impressed with how well he did. I definitely wouldn't mind getting this to the table more often in the future, and I don't think Luke will mind either. Let's see what one of the contributors to the Out of the Dust Geek List brought out of the dust recently. Faridia Pseudo, username Faridia, was able to bring Trickerion, Legends of Illusion, out of the dust. Faridia last played it 2 years, 5 months, and 16 days ago, and currently rates it a 9 out of 10. Faridia writes, "Gosh, shame on me, I love this game, but I know we haven't played again after our first game. So I considered getting the expansion, but before we did so, we wanted to know whether it was worth it, because, well, it never gets played. We played 2 players with the Duel of Magicians rules, but only base game, and we had a blast. Explanation took a while because we had to relearn everything, but the game was through in less than an hour. There's absolutely no reason why we don't play it more often. In our memory, the playing time was far, far longer, which is probably one hindrance. And yes, I backed the expansion." Thanks for the contribution, Faridia. I appreciate how you mentioned you had to relearn this game when you brought it out of the dust. The prospect of relearning a game is probably the number one thing that causes a game to get dusty for me, and the number one thing that makes me delay in dusting it off. I know the next time I play Trickerion, I'm going to have to do the same thing. This is a great game, but it's very intricate, and a refresher tutorial is going to be a must for me. To begin the reaction segment this week, I have an update from the Ludonaute Sentinels controversy I detailed last week. We have another message from Anne Cecile. She mentioned she was going to reach out to Greater Than Games, the publisher of Sentinels of the Multiverse, and this is her follow-up note after having done so. She writes, "After receiving an answer from Paul Bender from Greater Than Games, we have decided to avoid confusion and wrong parallel between our games and Sentinels of the Multiverse. Our goal has never been to copy GTG brands. We have listened to all comments, thus we have changed our game's name into Last Heroes. Nevertheless, the comic design of the game remains the same at the end. Thanks for your help. I hope you'll enjoy Last Heroes when it will be released in October." So how about that? This is the right solution in my opinion. I haven't had a chance to react to the Origins Awards winners yet, so I'd like to do that in this episode too. Most of the award victories weren't very interesting. Of course Gloomhaven won Best Board Game, and of course Azul won Best Family Game. Those were the way that the fan favorite voting went as well. I don't have a problem with either one of those. Gloomhaven was on my top 10 of 2017 list. Now Azul is a fine representative for what I've been calling 2017, the year of the abstract. I hope people appreciate how amazing 2017 was for the oldest of board game genres, the abstract strategy game. Between Santorini, Tak, Onitama, and Azul, have we ever seen such a standout year for the genre like that? Incredible. But perhaps the most interesting category was card game, where there was a divergence between the panel and fans, the panel going for Ex Libris, and the fans going for Hero Realms. I wouldn't mind trying out Hero Realms sometime, but I'm happy to see Ex Libris get the nod from the panel here. I love the weird theme, of course, but the game deserves acknowledgement for introducing some interesting twists into the worker placement genre. The idea of modular worker placement spots is innovative and works surprisingly well. I'd like to also voice appreciation for the victory of the Broken Token Terraforming Mars organizer winning the Best Board Game Accessory Award. That's a well-deserved win. I don't own the game, but I hope to eventually, and when I do, you can bet the Broken Token Organizer will be a must-have purchase for me. I've had the pleasure of playing several games with friends who have it, and it really does make a difference. I haven't been so impressed with the custom insert since ones were developed for Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Oh man, if ever there was a game that needed a custom insert, it was Castles of Mad King Ludwig. But Terraforming Mars is a close second. The card shoe tower and the player board overlays are just fantastic. I really would think twice about playing the game without the organizer. Let's turn now to the What I Have Been Playing segment. My friend Warren has had a copy of Immortals languishing on his unplayed shelf for almost a year now. I was unaware of this until a week ago, otherwise I would have suggested he bring it to one of our get-togethers long before now. Designed by Dirk Henn and published by Queen Games, Immortals is the latest area control action programming game for the designer to feature the famous Cube Tower. I'm a big Dirk Henn fan. He's one of my top 10 designers, and I think his elegant game Alhambra is one of the few perfect board games ever designed. So Immortals has been on my wish list and want to play list since before its release last year. In any event, I had a chance to play it with Warren and 3 other players in a full complement 5-player game. I thought the game had great mechanics, as I'd expect a game using the Cube Tower combat system to have. BGG classifies Immortals as a re-implementation of Shogun and Wallenstein, which I would disagree with. I think there's enough new elements in this game to differentiate it from a re-implementation. I enjoyed these new elements a lot. I like what the variable faction abilities bring to the system, and the whole light-dark area control aspect makes for some really interesting timing decisions. But the game has the same flaw that I described with Altiplano last week. It's too long! I'm not sure why this game felt so much longer than Shogun. There's actually a little bit less maintenance and upkeep stuff involved. But I think the problem lies in the more freeform way that actions are chosen. In Shogun and Wallenstein, the order of the actions is determined by a deck of action cards, and each player carries them out simultaneously in many cases. But in Immortals, each player takes turns taking any one action they've programmed at a time, until no one can take any more. This seems to have resulted in a big difference in playing time. At about 45 minutes per round, 5+ rounds, depending on player count, is way too many. In our game, we actually only got through 3 rounds before a couple of players ran out of time and had to leave. But the game felt finished at that point. Any more rounds would have felt excessive and unnecessary. If I add this to my collection, I might just house rule the length to 3 rounds because that felt like just the right amount of time. I'd have to play the game more, but maybe 4 rounds for a 4-player game and 5 rounds for a 3-player game would feel alright. This has been on sale for a crazy good price on Amazon for a few weeks now, but I haven't picked it up yet. I'm still planning on doing so eventually, but I feel like I'm pretty safe waiting until some more discretionary funds come along. Obscure Bryce game segment time. Rudiger Dorn is currently sitting at number 3 on my top 10 designer list, and I've been gradually picking up some of his older titles when the opportunity arises. I had one of his earliest games, Traders of Genoa, connect with me in a recent math trade and had a chance to try it out with some friends shortly afterwards. On a related note, now that my unplayed shelf is shrinking, my turnaround time in getting new acquisitions to the table is shrinking as well, which I'm very excited about. Traders of Genoa has an interesting history as far as its obscurity is concerned, because this is an example of a game that didn't used to be obscure, but has become more so in recent years. Way back in 2001, when it was published, it was actually a Spiel des Jahres recommended game. 2001 was the year Carcassonne won Spiel des Jahres, to give you an idea of the company Traders of Genoa kept. As a consequence of its committee recommendation, it was pretty well known at the time, well respected, and was ranked as high as number 23 overall on BGG, but as the years have gone by, the game has been played less and less frequently. It's now averaging less than 10 total logged plays on BGG. Despite this, it remains just outside the top 500 on BGG, which is pretty darn good for a game its age. In fact, it's still the third highest ranked game from 2001, but it's got kind of a bland theme, which has probably contributed to its current obscurity. Here's how BGG describes it. Players take the part of Renaissance traders, moving about the city, acquiring goods and filling orders for goods. Messages need to be delivered and privileges obtained. Of course, none of this can be accomplished on one's own. Much negotiation and deal-making is the order of the day in an effort to become the richest deal-maker in Genoa. Flexible rules allow for negotiating almost everything in the game. Sounds exciting, right? But I was very impressed with how my initial playthrough of this Rudiger Dorn classic went. Gamers familiar with Dorn's portfolio will recognize the central mechanic of Traders of Genoa as an early version of a mechanic he would later refine further in Louis XIII in Istanbul. Take a stack of something and distribute it around the board to get to an action you want to take. In the case of Traders of Genoa, the stack of something are 5 discs that constitute the trade tower. On a player's turn, they will move the trade tower to an adjacent space on the board, leaving 1 disc behind them. If the new space is a building, then the player has the option of either taking the action that building offers, or accepting an offer from another player for them to take the action. This offer can be countered by other players who haven't taken an action yet, so they can take the action instead. The player controlling the trade tower must use these offers to their greatest strategic benefit. The offer is usually a cash amount of some sort, but it doesn't have to be. Every component in the game can be negotiated, which is very interesting as the game is a money salad, having many different ways for players to earn money, and each component can help accomplish this in various ways. The tower controlling player can only take 1 action during their turn themselves, and when all the discs have been distributed, the next player becomes the trade tower controller. So players must balance between taking actions they want, accepting lucrative offers from other players, trying to decide when an action would benefit a player too much, and declining their offer, being careful not to help other players too much with their own offers, and doing all of this with the ultimate objective of earning the most money. There's a great mechanic that adds some real tension to the game, as when the end of the game happens is a little uncertain. The game lasts a certain amount of rounds, but the round marker might advance more than once per round, depending on where the trade tower starts at the beginning of any given player's controlling turn. Remarkably, we had a tie on most money at the end of our game, and had to go to the tiebreaker to determine the winner, which I lost. I had a comfortable lead for most of the game, but my friend Aaron snuck up on me at the end with some nice contracts he'd built up for, and managed to stockpile a couple more resource cubes than me, which was the tiebreaker. It was a very satisfying game. The trading and negotiation elements work well. In fact, there are many believers that this is the ultimate trading game. As much as I liked it, I honestly doubt it will become a regularly played game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it got a little dusty from time to time. But I will definitely look forward to the occasional play. I'm thinking I might schedule this at the next local convention even.